me if this feels familiar for you. I was just a teacher. I was just a stay-at-home mom. I just stayed at the same company for 30 years. That word just, it sneaks into the way people talk about their own lives. And it sounds harmless, but it's not. Because underneath it is this belief that what you did with your life doesn't quite measure up, that someone else did something bigger, more meaningful, more important than you. Well, years ago, my spiritual mentor said one sentence to me that completely shattered that way of thinking, and I've never looked at life the same way since. But before I tell you what he said, I need to take you somewhere else first, because what I'm about to share with you is the reason his words hit me the way they did. When I was little, every time my grandmother made her apple pies, she would take the little bits of dough she'd trimmed off the edges, and she would make a little tart, and then tuck a little of her homemade strawberry jam inside. And she would say, "This is just for Connie." And since I was a little girl who didn't receive a lot of love except from my grandma, seeing that little tart in the oven with all the rest of her pies, it meant everything to me. I felt loved. And not only that, it's the only time I felt lovable. And she never knew that. One day, she took me next door to meet her neighbors, Gladys and Louise. And when my grandmother introduced me, I gave a little half smile because I felt it was the polite thing to do. And Louise looked at Gladys and said, and I'll never forget these words, "Well, my, Gladys, look at those beautiful teeth she has." And then she said, "Now let me see them again." And this time, I smiled even wider. And from that day on, I began to smile a little bit more and a little bit more often. And the more I smiled, somehow it lifted my mood, and I felt better about myself. It changed me. And she never knew that. And when I was in high school, I had a band director, Mr. Vincent, who was this big, burly man. And not having had a father in my life, he was like a father figure to me. And when I walked into that music room and he caught my eye, he would say, "Hey, half pint," every single time. Something I'd always wanted from a dad and never got. I felt special. And he never knew that. All three never knew how they impacted my life, but I will tell you this now. Now they know, because from time to time I look up to the heavens and I thank each one of them for their gift of love. And these are only 3 people out of so many, and we're not even talking about the teenage girl who saved me from drowning. Now, I could have just kept these memories to myself, but there's a reason I'm sharing them with you today, and it has everything to do with you. So why am I telling you all this? Because every single one of those moments was ordinary, unremarkable to most, just a regular day in somebody's life. And yet they changed mine forever. And that is exactly what my spiritual mentor meant when he said this to me. "Connie, it is in the mundane that the brownie points are won." Now, when I first heard that, I thought, brownie points? What does that even mean? Maybe you're thinking the same thing right now. And what he meant was this. It is in our everyday, ordinary life that we leave our greatest mark. So now I want to ask you something. Think back over your own life, because I promise you there is a grandmother, a Louise, or a Mr. Vincent in there somewhere. Someone who did something so simple, so small, so ordinary, that they never gave it a second thought. And yet it changed you, it shaped you, it made you who you are today. Can you think of someone like that right now? Because I want you to hold on to that person and just honor them for a moment. And maybe you can thank them later too, whether they're here or up there. But this is the most important part I don't want you to miss. You have been that same person for someone else. Maybe a word you said, something you did without thinking twice. Now, Most of the time, you're never going to know how you've impacted someone else's life. But my hope is that someday someone will tell you how important you've been to them. But if not, that's okay. Because here's the rest of what my mentor meant when he talked about those brownie points. I asked him, what do you mean by brownie points? And he said this: one day, when you cross over in the afterlife, you will see everything that's happened in your life, every single ordinary moment that mattered, every small thing you said or did that changed someone's life for the better. And you will realize that the moments of love and kindness you gave to another soul, those will shine brighter than anything the world ever called success. Those will be your greatest accomplishments. And after he said that, the way I looked at life changed me forever, for the better. He always changed my life with every session I ever had with him. Talk about someone who's had impact. So let me give you one more thing to hold on to. The next time you catch yourself saying, I was just, stop. Because there is no just. There never was. You came here to do something extraordinary, and you've been doing it all along in the most ordinary ways imaginable. And that, dear one, is what a life well lived really looks like. Not one single moment of your life has ever just been anything. So you can tell us about one moment where someone made a difference in your life in the comments, because sharing those moments reminds all of us that small things that happen to us can actually be larger than life. If something in this video stirred something in you, don't let it stop here. The next video is already waiting for you right here. So come on in. I'll save you a seat, and I'll be right there with you.